probably I should start. So nice to see you here. I think that we have 25 minutes to know more Virginia, who is incredible person. I met her, I think so, 4 almost years ago, where we started, R&D centers of the Honeywell in the Krakow. And today, of course, Virginia is engineer, so she's doing amazing work in the Honeywell. Honeywell is an amazing company as well. But when you are trying to study someone, it's better, to know her much more deeper. And we today will speak about her personal life, okay? So, Virginia, tell me, why you decided to design, engines? Why you decided to go to the engineering work? Just let us know who did it for you, that you started to thinking that this will be your career, that this will be your 30 years of life, and so on and so forth. Couple words.
Thank you. It's quite the honor to be here, so thank you very much for that kind introduction. I think in high school, I was very motivated to figure out how to solve complex problems. And I decided I wanted to study engineering because engineering was about solving complex problems. But then it was missing the people element. And that's where I chose the field of industrial engineering, because industrial engineering connects the people, the process, and the systems. And I went to Purdue University, and as I was in my studies, I met some people that had worked, at the time it was Allied Signal, and I decided to take a chance. I did my internships with a telecommunications company. I don't think a lot of folks know. I worked for AT&T 3 summers, and they offered me a job, and I decided to turn it down because when I went to interview at Allied Signal, I walked through a factory where they were making all of these great components for aircraft engines. And I decided at that point in time that I wanted to do the same. And over the course of my career, I was able to make rotational components, cases, combustors, all of the things that are now in our displays in the engines. But it wasn't about the parts or the process. What took me to Honeywell Aerospace or Allied Signal was the people. And I remember having a conversation with one of my professors at Purdue, and he gave me this very sound advice. I was trying to make a decision on jobs, and he said, Virginia, don't go where they offer you the highest salary. Go where you are going to be the happiest and where you are going to be in alliance with people that are going to help you grow. And that's exactly what has gotten me. I have taken challenging jobs and great opportunities along the way, opportunities that other people did not want to do, jobs that other people did not want to take. But every one of those jobs that I have done has taught me something. And a lot of times people don't think about how they learn. But what got me inspired was honestly the people that work at Honeywell Aerospace and how we operate as an organization. And now, in 19 days, Honeywell Aerospace will separate and be its own company. So that is very exciting.
You need to remember Honeywell is already 120 years history, so it's just incredible company. So we have the share anniversary because Wisła Kraków is also 120 years old right now, so we went to the stadium last time. I have another question because in Honeywell you are optimizing the systems, you are creating amazing processes, trying to maintaining pretty important components for everyone in the world. How are you optimizing your life? You have amazing kids, you have still your husband, so it's pretty cool, and still you are doing so many different things, because splitting into such big companies as Honeywell to the 2 different companies, which be still valued at billions of dollars valuation. So how you do it? Because this is just incredible.
Well, thank you. I think along the way we learn. And when I first had, and by the way, I have 3 kids and they're back to back. So they're now 16, 17, and 18. So imagine 0, 1, and 2, 2, 3, and 4, 4, 5, and 6, sleepless nights.
Definitely mathematical formula there, yes?
That was exactly right. Calculated God plan. I think it's really important. The lesson I have learned is we have to be very intentional. And I love using that word, with our time. And what that means about intentional with your time. I start every morning with a 3, 4, or 5 mile run, because that is how I think, that is how I get my brain to process what I need to get done. But I learned, and a lot of people, and Jarosław and I were talking about sleep. So I average about 6.5 hours of sleep. But it's intentional, because if I did not get up early and did not go running and did not get my day started, I also kickbox 2 nights a week, because it's super important to stay healthy. So to me, I think it's prioritizing what is important, and not just at work. We're really good at managing our calendars at work, from meeting to meeting to meeting, to conversations, to meeting, to problem solving. But we're not that good at holding those commitments with our home calendars. And we need to put some of those boundaries. And I have learned that. It's not easy. I have learned. I make mistakes. I pick up. You have to have you mentioned, you have to have a very supportive spouse as well. And my husband worked for Honeywell for 47 years. And both of us were working at the same time, trying to figure out how to optimize, because you're not going to miss a Christmas show. You're not going to miss a kid's activity. So I think it's 3 really important things. 1, what are your priorities and the things that you have to do at work and at home? Planning and being very intentional with your time. And also keeping ourselves healthy, because when we're not healthy, 1 and 2 don't work.
Amazing. You need to know that she's super brave. She's running with the T-shirt of the Wisła Kraków in the Kraków.
Yes, I did.
I call her someday, to just explain to her that this is not the best idea you can just do. But she is still alive, so it's perfect.
I'm here.
Another question. You mentioned that this principle to have like the humans close to you, to be like the at first thinking about humans as the most important thing in your job. As you probably know, I am from the AI space, so I hate people by design. So everybody should be replaced by by AI, robotics, and so on and so forth. How you just trying to think about the future? You mentioned the God, you mentioned values, you mentioned everything. How you think the AI will change our work? How AI will change our level of living? How we just shape some bonds with the people, not only in the work but also at home? What do you think about this revolution? Because it's something which is still in mind of a lot of people, because we are thinking how to design our career, how to teach the new things, how to learn the new things, and everything is still open.
I think that's a really important question. I think a lot of people don't really understand AI. You hear the buzzwords, you hear, oh my God, data centers, it's going to replace humanity, it's going to replace people. I think I go back to a very simple complex thought process, right? How do you solve complex problems? To solve complex problems, you need data. What AI does in multiples of cases is take hundreds of thousands of elements of data and allow us to make really good decisions that I talked about. One of the things that is superbly interesting to read about, and I actually experienced it myself, is they are now using AI on this is not a very simple process, but on colonoscopies. In the medical industry, they are using data to predict and to solve for cancer, and I am a cancer survivor as well. So when I think about the future and I think about what AI, I think first we need to be really well informed, because I think a lot of folks really don't understand the concepts, and you and what you are doing with your company are helping people visualize and understand what AI does, whether you're in the medical industry. In the aircraft industry, when I think about that, software and coding, all of our data elements in cockpits are software systems. How it's going to change our lives, I think we can shape how AI is going to change our lives, how we allow it to change our lives, but remembering, right, we're still human. And AI doesn't have the feel. So humanity still needs that value, that feeling. But I think a lot of people are afraid of AI because everybody just looks at it like it's going to replace us. There is processes, there's data, there's analytics, and there's a lot of work that AI can be significantly smarter, and that's what you're working on to do for us. But we still begin with the basic concept of how do you solve complex problems. And it's groups of people, it's groups of data, it's elements of all of those things that I believe will take us in the future. It's fascinating to see the multitudes of fields where AI is used today in education, in the medical field, in the banking industry. Anything that has software associated with has that AI. And I think the human element of that piece will continue to evolve. And I think we have a lot to learn. And I always say, we're human, we're going to keep learning, and we're going to make mistakes and relearn and regroup and start over. But I think it's accepting the fact that there's just like the Industrial Revolution changed technology, AI is going to change and impact how we live and how we operate.
About being aware of the computer systems, we'll probably speak later, but I have a great question for you. Do you remember the most hardcore moment, during your career? It was for you, did you think oh my God, everything was crushed, everything was destroyed, and what I should do right now? Do you have the moments previously in your career that you think that it was the inflection point for you, that you change yourself, you build yourself more because you just fight with some problem and later you just, survive, but also move forward. This is incredible always for the people who are creating something. I remember sending to 1 million people in Poland, some promotion for 1 zloty for the hot dogs and nobody can buy it. Everybody was unhappy many years ago. But what was these moments of which just build you as a human being?
When I ran customer support operations, I managed a desk called Aircraft on Ground. And what that meant is any of the pilots that used some of our platforms, our boxes, our systems, could call into this line at the time, and now computers, do it, and request a part. And I was in a conference in Melbourne, Australia in 2014, and I met with a group called the Royal Flying Doctors. And we had missed delivering one of the parts that they needed for an aircraft, and our service was 4 hours or 24 hours. And what hit me like a rock is they sat down like you and I are sitting, and they basically said, listen, when we call Honeywell for a part, it is because there are lives at stake. So what they do is they take these helicopters, and if people are stuck in a mountain, in a treacherous area, they take that airplane or that helicopter and go rescue them. That hit me like a crashing moment in my life where I said, oh my God, this is life dependent. And so what that propelled me to do is to come back and really work on across all of our processes to help change that so that we would never miss a delivery when a customer called us on an aircraft on ground, because that was a life that was at stake. And when you really think about it, aviation is still the safest. We all fly. I always start those sessions with those questions. How many of us flew to the session? And you just expect to get from here to there with no issues. But behind the scenes, the work that has to be done to keep our airplanes safe. And that example to me to this day, I still remember sitting down and talking with that team when they said, so that was a life-changing moment that made me realize how critical their dependency was on us and what I needed to do different with people, process, systems, and at Honeywell to ensure that never happened.
We all know that you have the 25 years old, and what are the next challenges you have in your career? What is your primary thinking, what you will be doing in the next 5 years, 10 years, and so on and so forth?
So when I think of where we are today, in 19 days, Honeywell Aerospace will be its own company. And I think there are going to be things in the course of the next 7 to 12 months that we're not going to know. Things that are going to hit us immediately on day one. And one of the things I love to do, and the reason I studied engineering, is to solve problems. But I think it's super important to understand how to prioritize, again, what kind of problems. And I think for me, I loved engineering. I love our supply chain. I love working with our customers. I love the challenge that I have today because I have to ensure that everything is set on the Honeywell Aerospace side across 14 different functions. So there will be day two projects. There will be challenges that come with being your own company. And I think it's going to require the same amount of effort and groups of people to solve those things. But I think we're going to have challenges in our supply chain, with our providers, with our suppliers as demand goes up. I think in our engineering community, as we insert ourselves and use AI for software, we do a lot of government work. I think there's the world scenarios in defense, I think, are going to call for different solutions. So I've always navigated my career from challenge to challenge, not being afraid. So today I'm working on separating the business. If the next challenge is going to be working back in our engineering community or working with our customers or working in our supply chain, one of the important things I think about being somebody that likes challenges is there never is a lack of opportunity. My father always used to tell me, don't keep asking for patience because you will get more opportunities to display your patience. And I think it's the same with problems, right? There is always problems to solve. It's how we approach them and how we use the tools, the people, the systems to solve them. But I think there's going to be some challenges as we go live and we separate and integrate this company. And I think it'll be really exciting to solve them as our own company.
How many people work in aerospace?
So Honeywell Aerospace today, and as we separate, we'll have 36,000 people in every continent. So we have presence in the US, in North America. We have a big presence in Europe with a significant amount of growth, which is what brings us here. I was sharing with Jarosław, we just announced a repair for critical engines that are in our Abrams tank, where we're going to be repairing those, partnering here in Poland with the suppliers and teach them that technology so we can repair these engines that today are being used in Ukraine. So I think 36,000 around the globe and growing. Our business is growing. Last year we did $17.4 billion of revenue, and this year we are poised to go north of 18.5.
I know that you are interviewing a lot of new staff and the crucial also hiring for the Honeywell. What do you think is this magic ingredient which every human need to have, to work effectively with you, to be in the good, relationship with the team, which is like they're always pushing the urgency? What do you think is the crucial right now?
I think the most important thing is I talk about solving complex problems. Problem solving. We heard last year the theme of the conference was around collaboration. Collaboration, teamwork is super important, but I think it is not something you typically hear. I think it is not being afraid to say yes. You may get pulled to do a project, you may get pulled to do something. So normally when somebody comes to our booth, which we have a couple of booths, people, that first impression is very important. How you talk to people, how you communicate to people. But I think success requires having courage, you talked about the teamwork and collaboration, open and honest communication. Easier said than done, because a lot of people choose to not talk about that. All of us here have great educations. We went to good schools, we studied engineering or different fields, we know how to problem solve. It is taking those skills, applying it, and being able to work with others in pulling together a solution for those things. And that is very difficult. Trying to get a group of people, and sometimes that work around the globe, to work on a common solution is not very easy, as you probably know. You have to have a strong leader, you have to have a vision, you have to decide where you're gonna go. And sometimes when we first start, I remember when I first started, I was like, oh my God, I don't know a lot of people, what am I gonna do? I taught myself. I used to spend days going down on the shop floor and walking through the facilities in the evenings and understanding the pieces of equipment and just not being afraid to learn, because we will continue to learn and evolve. And the other piece I would say that you probably may not hear a lot is really understanding the financials of an organization. Because at the end of the day, organizations are profitable, they have stakeholders, and they have boards. And how that financial, whether you're working on hardware, you're working with customers on engineering, really understanding the components of your organization's financial systems and how your company grows and makes money is very important. And that's not something that when you first come in, you understand. It takes a while to learn that. And 10 years ago, I would have told myself I should have learned that a lot quicker in my career, but it took me a while, and I keep learning.
You are visiting Poland right now frequently. What do you think about Polish people? Like, try to make like the big and amazing, deep dive due diligence, and be very radical, honest about us. What do you miss, and what do you think we are good at, and what we need to improve, to be better?
I think one of the things, and I'm gonna, I'm always very honest, the values that people have, the allegiance to family, to values, to, I'm gonna say it right, to religion, to working hard. I love the history of understanding, and when I was asked to collaborate to open up the first site in Poland, I did a lot of history searching and understanding people, and you walk through, multiple wars and suffering and what happened, but there's one word that I think would describe my thoughts, and that's resilience. I think every one of the folks that we have hired is resilient. Why do I keep coming back to this conference? Because when I worked and we met with the governors and we met with the universities, it was so amazing that people would listen, but you could feel how people cared, which is why I love coming back. I've been here now like 6 or 7 times, but the resounding word is resilient, hard work, heart. Having that heart to keep moving. The values to me is very important, and I will tell you openly, I absolutely loved visiting all of the sites from our beloved Pope, John Paul II in Krakow. It was very interesting to me because we did a study for months on where the site should be in Poland. And it ended up in Krakow, and I think there was a plan there, but those are the words. It's the heart, it's the hard work, and it's the resiliency and the values that are very well respected in this country. Plus, our soccer team.
No, bad things right now.
Bad things?
What we are not good at,
I don't know that I could say that I would know enough to say not good at. I think there's commitment. One thing I would say, but it's more generational. I think, unlike me, that I have been in an organization for this long, I think you see younger generations moving from company to company to company. And I think that is maybe not just happening here, but we do compete for talent, and sometimes that's a good thing, but it's not just to Poland. I think you're a very resilient country, and I love the people. So I'm not going to say there's 50 things, 3 things you got to do different.
Amazing diplomacy. But let's, because we have only 35 seconds, so let's figure out some hard question. You mentioned, the God, that you are a very religious person, I think so. How you manage, to make the compromise in your head that you can be like the engineer and still believe in the God, in the world which is not about values anymore, and how you'd like to just, present that in the even like the next decade where the AI is also just impacting us in the way that the people do not believe in anything. So how you just manage to do it, because you need to be very rational from my side. From the second thing, you need to think about the values. And it is very hard, to combine these two elements in your life.
I think one of the most important things is staying true and, I think life events teach us. I've had several life events that have taught me. When I was sick, when I had cancer, I had faith. And I think our faith is so important. In my case, I think not losing sight that you may agree or may not agree with everything happening in the world, but when we lose ourselves and when we lose our value system, and I'm not talking about the world, I think the world has lost a lot of those values, but I think we have the ability to connect them. And I think it's, number one, staying true to yourself in understanding what are the important beliefs, like life. Life is very important. And I have been close enough to that to see that. And I think it's in always holding yourself to that high level of standard. Because if you remember what's important for you and what's important for humanity, I think you will allow the tools and the technology to enable good for humanity instead of destruction. And I think that is the important thing, is keeping your values and being true to yourself and allowing those things happening around us to impact you, but in a positive way, to be solving the issue, not causing more damage.
Virginia, thank you very much. We are seeing each other in Krakow soon, I hope so. Thank you very much for your time.
Thanks you, everybody, for spending time with us.
Thank you very much. Thank you, Virginia, for sharing your personal story. Thank you, Jarosław, for such an interesting conversation. Thank you. Have a good time at Summit.